as I experienced some technical difficulties, and I guess it was my intention to have been more involved with the Graviton training since it started, and I've just been overwhelmed with some work. So yeah, I've been kind of scrambling to get this presentation and these slides together, even though I'm feeling a little uncertain in my ability to present nonviolent communication. Wow, I see there's quite a few people here. Maybe I'm just going to guess that quite a few of you are probably not already involved in the book club, or is that not the case?
Yeah, some of them and some of us are in the book club, but we also extended the invitation to join us this Thursday.
I'm not in it yet, but I'm interested in checking it out, certainly. Thanks for the link.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so I guess I'll just start from the beginning and try to, and or even if people have any specific questions or kind of problem areas that they want to relate, then I'd be happy to hear that also. Just to begin, I will say that I'm not like any expert in the practice of nonviolent communication, and but I've seen how becoming more fluent in these teachings will help me to meet my need to connect with the people in my life more compassionately. So I have studied this material for pretty thoroughly over the past couple of years, but that intellectual understanding has, it's helped me to keep in mind and other people's perspectives a little easier, but it's not quite the same as getting practice in. So hopefully we can, if not in this session, as a group, move from the understanding into practice sooner than later. Yeah, so nonviolent communication is a language, a way of thinking, communication skills, means of influence, and a practice. And there's quite a bit of philosophy surrounding nonviolent communication. It seems like a really simple idea, but it's actually pretty complicated how it all relates in with each other. But the basic idea is that it supports in connecting with ourselves and others in a way that promotes compassionate giving, and that we always want our giving to be done willingly, not out of guilt, shame, fear of punishment, or by love, submitting to people's expectations. So, I don't know about you all, but for me, that's pretty, that's like pretty mind blowing already, because that's like the basis of most of my actions in life have been, motivated in these ways, whether through schooling, or even just non-formally through social settings, that it just kind of, if you think about it, or at least when I think about it, it seems like these things kind of run through our motivational systems. So, if you don't know about Marshall Rosenberg, basically he got into the study of psychology to try to determine what happens to people so that they enjoy suffering, and what happens to people so that they enjoy relating compassionately and enjoying contributing to the well-being of others. And how could he, because he saw that some people just really love to make others suffer, and then some people just really love connecting and contributing compassionately to life. So so that's where this all came from. That's the short version of where it all came from. Yeah, he determined that violence is created by a way of thinking and a language and a use of power where some claim to be superior and know what's right for others. And that to maintain domination structures, people are educated with a static language that judges what they are, that identifies them as a certain type of person based on their behavior, their appearance, and their intelligence. And so that's maybe I can just take a pause from reading this and get some response from people listening, if they can connect with what Marshall finds to be the source of violence. Does that resonate with us here? Does it sound like familiar?
We're just putting this one into the gravity survey about what's most difficult that I find what's very difficult with strife in a community, and with the kind of violence of speech or enjoying promoting someone else's suffering. I think specifically in crypto cultures, but also in the internet, it's a very meme friendly type of culture, and dogpiling can be such an easy part of it because it's kind of fun almost for people to identify a mistake or something silly. Imagine thinking this is a good track or something like that, and so quickly it can spiral into this, oh, now you're making fun of someone, but you're just having fun as well. So I think that I understand what you mean by the Marshall Rosenberg, or I can see the correlations between the uh, desire to add to other people's suffering, because I don't know, maybe perhaps it's already kind of been gamified or something like that. It's very easy to do.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
rewarding.
Absolutely. And I think what he's, what he's suggesting is that that's not an accident or a chance that it comes to be that way. Does anybody else have any thoughts or reflections on what Marshall sees as the source of violence?
I have something that came up when I looked at this. This slide in particular made me think about a conversation I had with my daughter this weekend. We've been talking about power dynamics, social ones, status, and how.
I just wondered, there are some people who kind of have a need to be in control, and those people can sometimes be quite difficult people. I was wondering what the suggestion would be in that type of situation.
Sorry, Innovator, I think you interrupted Aloysius.
I thought I was or I thought I was just muted and nobody could hear me.
You can continue, and we can come back to that question momentarily.
I just want to clarify that sometimes that happens on Discord, that just certain people can't hear certain people. So maybe Innovator wasn't listening to you, but please go ahead, Aloysius.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, just talking about power dynamics and how because they are real, like people do things to maintain power dynamics. So in order for there to be popular people, there have to be unpopular people. So they have to like create these scenarios to validate their experiences. And that's just like bringing a lot up when I look at this and I think about language and how we use it. And the comment before me with just the internet and the dogpiling, and yeah, how people feel good when they get validated. And I just see that happen so much on the internet, people picking on somebody or shaming them for making a mistake as opposed to like supporting them. It just brings all those thoughts up and how we communicate and just how it's not good.
Yeah, and I think we can get our needs for connection with our community met in this way that doesn't necessarily meet our needs for respecting other people, in their full humanity. But yeah, awesome. And I think there was a question about people who want to control situations, and that's a lot of what nonviolent communication wants to provide, is a way to how do we connect with these messages and people who are communicating in these ways, and how can we connect in a way that maybe we can get all of our needs met. So why don't we keep moving on the slides and see what, because we're still just getting into the sort of the background of how nonviolent communication came about.
I also want to say something that didn't, and is that when we were reading the book, I in the second chapter, he made a reference about Hannah Arendt and how sometimes we think that the most violent things that have happened were made by men without hearts or that are different than us, but he says that and Hannah Arendt also reflects on that, that evil is very banal, the banality of evil, and that really
Yeah.
the evil things is just people who is not um, really taking the full responsibilities of their actions, and sometimes they're just following some institution or some rule to back up their action, but that through nonviolent communication we should be it promotes responsibility, and that we have the free will to act in one way or another.
Yeah, and that's what that's sort of what we're trying to get at here, is that the idea that there's good guys and that there's bad guys, and that the good guys have to they have to punish the bad guys to win. I guess we're coming up next with that in retributive justice, the idea that when people are right, wrong, good, bad, however you're judged by the authorities, then you deserve to be rewarded or suffer, depending. And then Walter Wink noticed this pattern of the myth of redemptive violence, that of the good guy and the bad guy, and the what I'm trying to get at is that when we have these binary static images, then it's very hard to look at ourselves as someone acting in ways that aren't contributing to others' life, when there's only the good guys and the bad guys. We got to be the good guys, and somebody else has got to be the bad guy. And it makes it really hard to explore our own problems where we're not serving life in our community. And I would recommend checking out more in Walter Wink's Redemptive. That's something that Marshall brings up that was influence of his teaching, and it's worth his book, The Powers That Be, I would highly recommend. There's a link there. Okay, so nonviolent communication. Now, that was the really TLDR of where nonviolent communication came from, and now we're going to try to get through just sort of what the main ideas, that rather than judging whether someone's right or wrong and whether to punish or reward, with nonviolent communication, we're focusing on what's happening to human needs, our needs, their needs, and when actions aren't fulfilling needs, then we can change to actions that will fulfill needs. But when the needs are met, we can celebrate. And just the idea that we can do all that without creating the enemy image of the bad guy and the good guy, and but that paradigm is also it is meeting people's needs for connection at the expense of the needs of everybody else in the community. It doesn't meet all of the needs, but it's important to understand when we're thinking about how do we replace these destructive systems, that they're there for a reason, because they are fulfilling needs. So it's just important to keep that in mind. Yeah, and he just says that the conflicts can be resolved when we get out of this almost like a meme or a complex, or we get triggered by something and instantly into this defensive posture that's not really focused on the needs in the situation. So the process of nonviolent communication involves observations, clear observation, doesn't analyze or judge the behavior, but just action, pure action language, feeling, which is not how you think about what they did, but actually like I feel stressed, or I feel sad, or I feel mad, or whatever, and then to the needs, which we'll get to shortly. There's a whole list of needs that you can browse through. And then if our needs aren't met, end on a clear request, what can meet our need in that moment. If you listen to the recordings of Marshall Rosenberg, it's a lot of jackal and giraffe language. And the jackal language is when we're judging what people are, and we're addicted to our strategies, we're making demands of people, and in giraffe, because giraffes have the biggest heart, and they have a long neck to reach for what the feeling and need is. And so that I would expand upon that, but I haven't really gotten there. Observation is a statement of fact without judgment or evaluation. And Marshall always loved to quote this ability to observe without evaluating the highest form of intelligence. Feelings indicate whether needs are met. So when we feel good, then we're meeting some needs. Our needs are being met, and then when we don't feel good, then there are some needs that are not met. So the process starts with either maybe the other person is having a trouble, so you're asking them, like you're guessing what they feel, or you're sharing with them what you're feeling in that moment as stimulated by your observation. And we divided feelings into a list of when needs are met and when they're not met. And a big part of nonviolent communication is just gaining a literacy and becoming more comfortable having on hand at any moment a set of 9 feelings that you could, that you can, better than good or good and bad, how you're feeling in a particular moment. So what he suggests is like going through these lists and picking out which words you most relate with to that particular feeling, and how you would use it in your natural language. Because when you start practicing this, it might feel a little jilted at times, but we're aiming ultimately to use this process as part of our natural expression coming out. We all share the same human needs. This is one of the fundamental principles.
One pele. So you could have one day we will go there on 4 bottles. If it's more for it, for it up and down.
It's one of the fundamental principles of nonviolent communication is we all have the same universal need. And the same with the feelings is to come up with a list of needs that you can use in your own words. And that could even be something people are interested, we could at another time than our regular Tuesdays to do little workshops on some of this. Open. So all this was leading to, after a clear expression of our experience with an observation of what someone did and how we felt in relation to that and what needs were the cause of those feelings, and then offering a clear request on what that person can do in that moment. Because it's hard a lot of times when we're expressing some frustration or difficulty with someone. If we don't have a clear request on how they can meet that in that moment, if not ultimately for all times, but then it can be just a little too vague and not not actionable. That's where the clear request comes in important. As important. Oh no, my.
Also, there's a difference between requests and demands. When we make a demand, that's a type of communication that blocks compassion because we are objectivizing the other. And when we ask for a request or we make a suggestion, we recognize the free will of the other, but we encourage the other to be motivated through our needs and feelings.
Absolutely. It's and the more as I've gotten to explore nonviolent communication more deeply, it kind of helps to see certain ways, subtle aspects of relationships where it didn't come out as a demand, but Marshall says it's a demand based on what happens if they don't do what you requested. So and we can get into destructive games in our relationships without necessarily being aware because of this training that we've gotten around the type of violent communication trying to transcend. Oh, we're actually doing pretty good on this. I mean, there's only like 50 slides yet left. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions? I know that was like a really sort of hurried run through of that, but hopefully this is just helping us all to gain a little more familiar with this concept. Anybody thoughts, questions?
One thing that's come up for me is because as I've explored this model of nonviolent communication is just how difficult it is for me to like message my feelings sometimes when I like just staying in the feeling words and not even like analyzing. It's really easy for me to analyze myself or to like say that I feel, I feel like you're not listening to me or something. And like that's like a sort of a weird statement of fact or a measurable thing that's like isn't necessarily related to my feelings, I guess. I don't know, I was wondering maybe if you could address that.
Yeah, for sure. As in nonviolent communication, as Marshall has shared with us, is that feelings, if anytime you say, I feel that, I feel you, feelings are all we have to relate it to our emotion within this framework, or else it's not clear. Like, I feel that you don't care isn't the same as saying I feel hurt when you respond in that way. I hope that's clarifying a little what we're getting at here. I don't think I really took notes on that too deeply.
If you say that I feel that you're doing something that you're stating a judgment, you're not actually stating a feeling. These are called faux feelings.
Right.
And what faux feelings do is that provide you with a way of avoiding responsibility for your own feelings. And this is so pervasive, and that's why everyone sort of feels like they're essentially projecting their judgments upon someone else without taking responsibility for them. So if you say, I feel disrespected, that's a judgment of what you think the other person is actually doing, when in fact you're not really sure. You're just projecting your idea about it. So it's super important to not. There's a lot of words that end with ed, which are, I feel disrespected is one of them, right? So if you say, well, I feel sad or I feel angry or I feel whatever when you do some specific thing, that's a far better way of making the person clear about what it is that you're feeling and when, as opposed to, just putting an imagination of what they're judging you for. And so it's also important to do that because when you say it like that, it makes you feel responsible for your own feelings. And we've been taught that that's not necessarily a good thing. And so we kind of repeat that unhealthy pattern and that violent pattern.
Would you say there's a difference between feelings and thoughts then? Like, I think that you're not listening to me rather than I feel like you're not listening to me. I feel hurt or ignored when you're not listening. But it's a thought of mine that you are disrespecting me. Something like
It's
that.
an analysis, yes, or a judgment, or
There you go.
yeah, for sure. And thanks for jumping in on that. Much appreciated.
Also, I think that he promotes the understanding that we are the owners of our own feelings, so yeah, it's like we shouldn't see on others the feelings that we're feeling, but rather see the feelings within ourselves. And also the feeling is like the signal, but what comes after the feeling is to identify the need that is behind the feeling. So sometimes you may say, like, continuing with this example, like, I feel disrespected because you are not hearing me. Maybe the need is security or attention, and maybe you can say, like, if you would like to make a request, you would.
You got cut off there, Wonka. We're ending this at 3. I imagine there's people that probably have to go.
Yeah, sorry, my internet jumped.
Oh, okay. You can continue with your thought if you like.
Yeah, that we should be responsible for our feelings and not like giving that responsibility to what others do. And that, continuing with that same example of I feel disrespected, I am feeling disrespected, maybe what is the need behind that feeling and that judgment, and if it's attention or security, that you can, like, really understand what is the root of the communication that you want to have, and not like maybe like adding layers of complexity. I think that nonviolent communication also tries to express things like the most simple way possible, so that the message is delivered. And yes, when we give like give the responsibility of our feelings to the other, we cannot express what is really inside of us.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think we're coming to we're kind of coming towards the end of the hour, and I just want to just to highlight and reiterate that the a big part of what that this training taught, not only to help us increase the harmony in our relationships, but to protect society and humanity from dangerous forces that aren't people in organizations seeking to meet their needs at the expense of the needs of others. And so it's really, I don't know why, for some reason, when I come across nonviolent communication, I feel like that part gets left out. But that and I also wanted to show how this same process is used, how he teaches its use in gratitude, because maybe that'll help to see how the same pattern is used, where when we're sharing gratitude, that Marshall says the person who's receiving the gratitude can get a lot more out of it if, rather than saying you're incredible, which is that same kind of judgment language, judging what people are, because if it's a good judgment, it's still that same thing. So instead, we're suggested to make a clear statement what actions, what specifically about what the person did, what actions they took that enriched our life, what needs of ours were fulfilled with that action, and then how we're feeling as a result of it. So it's the same thing when we have a problem, or if somebody, and if you scroll back through the slides to the empathy section, it's the same thing, that like we're focusing on, you know, what they're feeling now in that moment, what need is being disrupted. So it's this observations, feelings, needs. That's the rubric with which nonviolent communication uses to connect in all of our different types of interactions that we have in our relationship. And yeah, if anybody else wants to add something to that, anything that maybe I left out that they feel is really important to cover in a session about nonviolent communication, anything like
that. I would like to say that first is the understanding of these concepts, but then comes the practice, and the practice is always the most difficult part. But by being conscious of the types of communication and the communication mistakes that we are normally doing, we can start making small changes in our life. And I feel I wasn't really clear with when I was talking before. So what I wanted to say is that we are the owners of our own feelings, and we should be responsible for what we feel, and not trying to give that responsibility to others. The others are not the owners of our feelings. We are the owners of our feelings, and we should be responsible by also how we think and how we feel. It's like being the master of your mind and the master of your body. Sometimes we live too much in our minds, and our minds can behave like a crazy horse. And through nonviolent communication, we can tame that crazy horse and being able to ride it. And that's the same. That's the same when we are trying to communicate with others. Nonviolent communication is a framework that helps to go over the prisoner's dilemma, and not like everyone taking a decision without taking into account the other, but to try to take the best decision possible, taking into account the needs of both parts.
Well, and the other part about this that's beautiful about using language that accepts responsibility is there's a switch in how you feel internally after some practice and time using this, in terms of how much agency and autonomy you feel within yourself. It may seem a little bit awkward at first because we're growing up with words and phrases and methods of communicating that sort of remove our ability to feel those things. But over time, it can really gang up on you, and it's a very beautiful side effect.
Does anybody have any questions? Something that they just are really dying, or observations on the anything that came up during the presentation?
I don't have any questions, but good job, man. You smashed it. I would have no idea where I would start a presentation like this. Do you have a favorite Marshall Rosenberg lecture or anything that you'd want to share with us?
Well, back at the very beginning of the slides, on the second slide, it shows you that this presentation came from a playlist that I found on YouTube, and also a GitHub repository with a big bunch of links of all kinds of videos, more information, and even there's a course that Sounds True sells that is based upon the same workshop, 9-day nonviolent communication workshop training. And also, yeah, so there's that, and I did leave some other links, but that right there on that TDLR page of the presentation, you can definitely find more information that you'll know what to do with. more than I know what to do with.
My favorite workshop in the Gravity channel.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I added your.
Yeah.
I'll put that on there, on that page also then.
Yeah, but all these are everyday practices. It's not like, okay, I get MBC and I have it in my mind, but I don't express empathy. It's something that we have to like continue practicing every day, and sooner or later we will get the best out of it. And yeah, now that we are getting to the end of this call, I would like to thank Didan for this presentation. It was amazing. And also thank all of you for coming, because I see a lot of consistency in the participants, and that is amazing. I foresee like a lot of gravitons and a lot of interesting discussions that we can have, and a lot of collaboration that we can have in the space. And yeah, I'm very thankful for that. Also, next session we will have Lorelai, who is also someone who is working in human resources for a lot of time in the DAO space, and she's currently now working in Gitcoin. So she will be telling us about how can we have conflict management within organizations. And yeah, I really hope that you're enjoying the training and that the topics are being aligned session after session. And yeah, I would like to also to open mic if someone has some question or request for this training.
I got one thing. I just wanted to say I'll stick around at the end of the call a little bit. If anybody hasn't received BOAT badges for some reason or is having trouble with them, I can help people with that.
Yeah, right now we have delivered 3, and this week we will deliver the 4th one. So someone can answer really quick, what did you learn today? Or what was your favorite part of today's talk by Didan?
I appreciate having the slides available. Sorry. I was just saying, I appreciate having slides available. I'm definitely going to go look at those. I'm guessing a lot. There's so much information.
Thank you. And also, I want to invite anyone who's interested in helping to improve the slides. That's going to be a work in progress. I'd like it to be a little bit better organized than it is, but please do reach out. And also, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that I appreciate the way that you did the slides and the presentation. It was very well said, everything that you said. Just want to say that you did a good job, and thank you for sharing all of that with us.
Thank you, and thanks for the appreciation. It's a little bit of I didn't have as much time to work on it as I wanted to, so I'm glad that it was able to come together the way that it did.
So well, thanks everyone, and yeah, this was the first session of the Graviton training.